Okay, welcome back to another episode of the Worthy Bitch podcast. Today we are going to be talking about Kapha season don'ts. So, what do we need to avoid? What do we need to not do during Kapha season? That's what we're going to discuss today. How do we keep our Kapha in check, especially those of us who have a kapha imbalance or a prominent kapha dosha already as it is. I mean, nobody wants to get all flabby and sad during the cold, wet kapha season. So you may be asking yourself, how do I avoid depression during the winter months? Or how do I keep my energy up so I don't turn into a sack of very delicious but sad potatoes? Well, you don't have to be depressed all during the winter time. I used to struggle with that so much. Trust me when I say I never thought I would be saying those words, that you do not have to be depressed during winter time. Something about the cold, wet is just so dwelling to me, but I have learned to embrace it, and each year gets better and better. And you don't have to be all sad and lazy just because it's cold outside. But I mean, if that's your thing, you do you, boo boo. Okay, so we're going to do a brief little, this is going to be a two-part series. So first we're going to discuss the don'ts, and then for part two, it's going to be the do's. So stay tuned. First, I'm going to tell you what not to do, and then I'll tell you what to do. So first, I'm going to give you a little brief rundown of Kapha. I have a full episode all about the doshas, and then a full episode all about just Kapha. If you want to check that out, Kapha 101, I will link that in the show notes below, so you can check that out and get a more in-depth understanding of Kapha if you're not familiar with the doshas. So first, we're just going to discuss a little bit about Kapha, what it is, what it needs, just really quick run through, and I'm going to tell you the don'ts for Kapha season. Because like increases like, and if you are in kapha season, your kapha is just going to go up. That's just the way it works. It works the same way with all the other seasons. So kapha season is the spring and the winter seasons. We see kapha in the earth and the water elements. So spring and winter makes a lot of sense with the earth and the water elements. Springtime, there's a lot of earth. There's a lot of, birth happening and not a lot of life springing forth. That's a very kapha energy. And water in the wintertime, we have a lot of snow. It's a lot of going internal. So spring, winter, earth, and water. And we also see kapha during the times of 6 and 10, both in the AM and the PM. So this is early morning and early evening. I think on my other episode, I said it was dawn and dusk. I don't think that's actually accurate. I think that's for Vata. So just to correct that. So what does a kapha need? Kapha needs warm, energizing, stimulating, and detoxifying qualities. Just keep that in mind as we go through these characteristics. Kapha needs warm, energizing, stimulating, detoxifying. So how can you spot a kapha if you want to know based off of your body, if you are a kapha or people that you see? Let's just talk about some of the characteristics of how to identify a kapha. And I just want to say that everybody has all doshas within them. There's vata, pitta, and kapha. We are made up of all of them, but we usually have one or two that are more prominent than the others. It is very rare to be completely tridoshic. I don't think that really happens anymore. It's almost like the Avatar, the last airbender. He's like all three. He can master them all. Okay, so kapha characteristics. Kaphas tend to have a larger frame. They tend to gain weight a little bit easier than the other doshas. They have big, beautiful features, big, beautiful, bright eyes that are usually a bluer color, lighter color, big, voluptuous, thick hair, thick lips, moist, wrinkle-free skin. They have all those juices flowing through them, and they usually have a paler complexion. If they're going to get spots on their skin, they're usually going to be white spots. And so if you notice that, and sometimes, we'll get different color spots on our skin, but if you notice a lot of your spots are white, then you might have a prominent kapha dosha. So how do we recognize the kapha in the mind? So let's talk about a balanced kapha mind. Some of the qualities are they tend to be very structured. They love routine. They like things the way they like them, and they do really stick to a routine. They're very calm, sympathetic, courageous, nurturing. They're loving, and just kind of think Oprah energy. Every time I think of Kapha, I think of like Oprah energy, Mama Bear. Okay, imbalanced in the mind. So when the kapha is out of balance in the mind, how does that show up? It shows up as oversleeping, lethargy, attachment, depression, which is living in the past and holding on, putting others' needs ahead of your own, and greed, even holding on, attachment. How do we recognize an imbalanced kapha body? So we can see that as congestion and mucus, and I'll get into that a little bit more later on. Coughs and colds. Kapha is ruled by the chest, or the chest is ruled by kapha, however you want to say that. And so when you start to have issues in the chest, it is associated with the kapha dosha. So coughs and colds. Infections, the body's not able to detox itself and it holds on. Thyroid issues are also a kapha imbalance, usually leading to weight gain. Okay, so the gunas. Guna is the Sanskrit term for quality, and I have a whole episode, I'll link that below as well, all about the gunas, why we need to understand them, why they're important, and how to work with them. But I'll just briefly tell you. So the kapha gunas are, well, let's just say, okay, yes, some of the kapha gunas are heavy, slow, dull, cold, cool, oily, smooth, slimy, dense, cloudy, sticky, and static. And so all of those things, all of those gunas, all of those qualities are going to increase kapha dosha, which is going to push into imbalance if there's too much. So if you feel yourself feeling heavy, slow, dull, cold, cool, dense, static, those types of things, you may be coming into a kapha imbalance. So what do you need? What are the opposite gunas, the opposite qualities that are going to pacify or decrease the kapha dosha? Light, warm, sharp, pungent, penetrating, and rough are just a few of the gunas that are opposite of the kapha dosha that are going to bring it back into balance. Something that's sweet is balanced through something that's pungent or even astringent, kind of the opposite. And we'll go into those 6 tastes now, how to recognize them and how to feed your dosha a little bit. So the 6 tastes are sweet, sour, salty, bitter, astringent, and pungent. We're all familiar with sweet, sour, and salty. Pungent, bitter, astringent, and pungent are usually words that we don't fully throw around that often. Bitter, we know, is like when we took medicine, and we know that's a really bitter flavor, but it also is seen in leafy greens, Brussels sprouts, asparagus, things of that nature. Pungent is seen in garlic, onions, mustard, and hot spices. Astringent is that flavor that kind of causes a little bit of a dryness feeling in your mouth, not a pucker like a sour pucker, but kind of a pucker where you feel the dryness on like the back of your teeth or on your teeth, and when you bite into a underripe or a green banana, you kind of get that feeling, or maybe a celery, a raw celery. Raw veggies have the astringent quality. So what are the aggravating and pacifying tastes for kapha? So kapha is aggravated by sweet, sour, and salty flavors, so we want to avoid those, and they are pacified by pungent, astringent, and bitter. Alrighty. A few spices that are good for kapha are cayenne, turmeric, and ginger. Those are good ones to keep kapha warm and stimulated. Okay, so what are the do-nots? What are the don'ts for kapha season? What do we want to avoid? What do we not want to not do during kapha season to remain balanced so that we don't get all depressed and upset? I'm going to tell you. A little drink of my kombucha. Okay. The don'ts for kapha season. So do not eat sweet, sour, and salty foods. As mentioned before, I just told you how those are aggravating to the kapha dosha because those are the flavors of the kapha dosha. So like increases like, right? So if you're eating a whole bunch of sweet, sour, and salty foods, you're going to inevitably probably go into a kapha imbalance. So avoid fruits, nuts, and smoothies. Stone fruits are actually best for kapha if necessary, and apples are usually really good, especially if they're cooked and stewed or put with like spices, cinnamon, ginger. That's great. And dried fruits are even better. So And something else that you want to avoid, you do not want to add extra salt to your food. Okay, that goes along with not eating sweet, sour, and salty foods. Do not add extra salt to your food. Salty flavors stimulate hunger. It's going to make you more hungry. This is bad for Kapha, especially during Kapha season when we're inside so much more and we are wanting to just kind of cuddle up, watch a movie, and snack all day. We need to really be mindful of what we're consuming. Another thing that you want to avoid, number 3 thing, so we said avoid eating sweet, sour, and salty foods, avoid adding extra salt. And another thing, and this might be hard for some of you, might not, depending. I know I do not struggle with this, but my fiance does. But do not go out for a steak dinner. If you already have a Kapha imbalance, red meat is not good for Kapha. It increases the Kapha imbalance. Red meat is just a no-no for Kapha. Poultry and seafood are better. And so if you are a person that loves to eat meat and you are a carnivore, and you have a prominent Kapha dosha in your constitution, or you tend to eat a lot of red meat during Kapha season, maybe try to switch to poultry and seafood, and that might help you out a little bit if you experience imbalance. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Number 4, do not drink ice water. You've probably heard me say this a million times, and you will probably hear me say this a million times more. Do not drink ice water. Do not drink ice water. Do not drink ice water, especially if you are a Kapha dosha. You do not want to drink ice water. It is going to put your Agni out, your digestive fire. It's literally like pouring a bucket of water on a fire. And then you're going to expect your body to be able to do its job, absorb your food, to digest all the food that you give it, and absorb the nutrients properly. You're not going to get the results that you're looking for. You're going to experience imbalanced things such as bloating, maybe even some other unwanted things. So just do not drink ice water. Okay, number 5, do not consume dairy. So dairy, this can be a tough one for some of you. Again, I'm lactose intolerant, so I do not struggle with this because it makes me sick, but I used to love dairy. I ate it in every single meal, especially cheese, and I know cheese is a hard one. But it's really important to avoid dairy as much as possible if you are a Kapha dosha. Dairy produces mucus in the body, which actually causes congestion and inflammation that leads to further dis-ease in the body, disease. And so if you have a prominent Kapha dosha, or if you struggle from any type of congestion or mucus or inflammation, I challenge you to go on a dairy detox and see how it helps you. Do it for a week or two and see how you feel afterwards, because it has made all the difference in my life. And I used to have seriously, seriously bad allergies, like seriously. And I have mainly pitta and vata in my constitution, and my allergies because of my congestion were so bad. And once I stopped consuming dairy, they went away. I hardly ever get any allergies, and I never get congested anymore. Okay, so do not be a couch potato. I think this is number 6. Do not be a couch potato for obvious reasons. We want to keep moving people, right? An object in motion wants to stay in motion. An object at rest wants to stay at rest. We know this. It's physics. Keep moving. During the winter, it can be harder to pull yourself out of that. Maybe get a friend, hold yourself accountable. Do some sort of like exercise challenge where you spend at least 15, 20 minutes a day doing something. If it's walking around your house, whatever you have to do to keep moving. Okay. Right now we are on a 30-30-30 challenge where we do reps of 30 of certain exercises every morning, and that actually really helps to do it first thing in the morning. Gets the blood going, and it gets you like ready for your day. Kind of just like turns you on for your day. You know what I mean? And speaking of potatoes not being one, don't eat them either, okay? So do not eat root veggies during Kapha season. This can be really hard. Root veggies are usually really, you go for them during Kapha season. And if you have a really prominent Vata dosha, then this can be okay. But if you already suffer from Kapha imbalance, try to avoid eating root veggies. This means potatoes, yams, beets, sweet potatoes, radishes, etc. it's going to push you deeper into an imbalance because they're so grounding. And Kapha is already a really grounded time. We're already really like in our inside, indoors, within ourselves. It's a very internal time. And so we want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to help ourselves in staying stimulated so that way we don't become like, so tired all the time. I struggle with this. I love my sleep. I love my sleep. I can't imagine if I had a prominent Kapha dosha. I love sleeping. Okay, and that brings me to my next point. Do not nap during the day, okay? Especially as a Kapha, but during Kapha season, it's important, and I know this can be really, really hard, but please try to stick to your routine. It is so important, to maintain a solid routine during these really heavy winter months. Of course, the occasional nap is fine and it's actually great. Rest, listen to your body, do what you need to do, but avoid overnapping and making it a habit, especially if you have a lot of Kapha in your constitution already, or if you are experiencing a Kapha imbalance. Do not harm yourself. Do yourself a favor and go to bed earlier or whatever you need to do to avoid having that nap during the day. Maybe take a look at your diet. You might be consuming some foods that are a little heavy for Kapha and making you sleepy, right? And my last point that I want to say, the last don't for today, is do not be a slob, my friends. Kapha season, we're inside a lot. We're in our homes. We're doing a lot of indoor activities. Things can get messy, okay? It's important to keep yourself moving. If that's one of your things that you're like, okay, part of my keeping myself moving is that I clean my house once a week and you stick to that, then do that. But keep it clean. Keep everything straightened up. Keep it as clean as you can. Garbage in, garbage out, and vice versa is what I always say. If you are living in a trashy environment, you're going to feel trashy and like garbage on the inside. And if you're putting garbage in your body, then you're going to feel like garbage on the outside too. Okay? So avoid sweet, sour, salty foods. Avoid red meat. Avoid dairy. Avoid ice water. Keep moving. Don't be a couch potato. Don't eat root veggies. Don't nap during the day. And don't be a slob. Those are the don'ts for Kapha season. So stay tuned for part 2, where we are going to uncover all of the do's. And these are juicy, my friends. Juicy, my friends. So part 2, all about what to do during Kapha season, the do's. So stay tuned for that. And also check the links below. You can sign up for all of my upcoming workshops that are in the making for you guys, and also to be the first in the know for all of the goods and the deals and the whatnots, and getting your special love letters. And oh yeah, girlfriend, oh yeah. That's all I have for you today. Like I said, we will be back, and I'm going to stop talking now. I love you. Boo, boo.